Good morning, and as you can see, today is my birthday. Okay, so Victoria is in a stage 3 lockdown at the moment, so we're only allowed to leave the house if we are going to the doctor, going to the grocery store, going to work if you can't work from home, or providing an essential service. Now, I am a carer for a young girl, so I go out there and I play and interact and, do some things with her that, keep her happy and well and all those things. So, and I usually go on a Friday. Today is Friday, so I will be going to do that this afternoon. Even on my birthday. Apparently her parents have bought me some gifts and they're cooking me my favourite dinner. Well, more than what I expected, but look, I'm not going to say no to a free feed. So I do also have uni today, because I always have uni on Fridays. So I'll log in and we'll do our Zoom class there. We also have an assignment due tonight, so that adds to it. So me and my happy birthday banner and my balloons, we're going to get ready for class and do any pre-readings and things we need to do for that, and then I'll check in with you all later. Okay, so class is over. It was a pretty successful class. I quite enjoyed today's lesson actually. And then we have a group assignment due later tonight, so my group and I were working on that as well, and I'm pretty happy with how that's going, and I'm glad I've got a much better group than the last group assignment I had. So I'm just going to head off now to my little friends here that I have in Melbourne, and I'm going to celebrate a little bit of my birthday with them and spend some time with Sarah before I head home on Sunday, but more information coming about that later. Sarah gave me the best birthday present and showed me that she had finally gotten her back handspring back after breaking her hand last year. And then we had cupcakes instead of a full cake so that we could socially distance and I didn't blow germs all over everybody else's cakes. And then it was present time and I got this big dressing gown that I can fit my entire body in, as well as some fluffy socks and fluffy pants to keep me warm in this Melbourne weather. And I got a few other bits and pieces too, and then it was time for me to head home again. Okay, so my birthday was absolutely wonderful. I feel very, very spoiled. I can do a bit of a haul tomorrow and show you what I got. It is currently like 10:30 p.m. and I am off to bed. So good night for now, and I will check in with you tomorrow morning. Okay, so excuse my face. Sort of essentially what has happened is as of midnight on Sunday, so tomorrow, WA is closing their borders and no one will be able to get in. And I was a bit worried about my grandma and my family, and I've said from the beginning that if, the only thing keeping me in Melbourne at the moment is my job, and should I no longer have my job, I will go home and be with my family during this crisis. But then the WA Premier announced he was closing the borders and I would not be able to get in as of after midnight tomorrow night. So on Thursday I booked a flight, arranged everything, spoke to my boss, everything was sorted. I was coming to Perth, and then I woke up this morning from an email from Virgin saying they had cancelled that flight and they had rebooked me onto a flight for Monday. The borders closed at midnight on Sunday night. I can't get in after Sunday night. So I rang them this morning and yeah, pretty much they said, well, your options are to get a refund and stay in Melbourne or fly today. Now the problem was I rang them at 11 o'clock. The flight leaving Perth left at 1. So it gave me an hour and 15 minutes to pack, clean and get to the airport before check-in closed to even make it onto the flight. But I've done it. It was a crazy busy morning, but I've done it. I've made it to the airport. Boarding starts in about 10 minutes and then I'll be on my way to Perth.
Okay, so voiceover Kay taking over here. On the flight I ended up with the seat next to me vacant, however the seat on the window was taken. Where possible, Virgin were trying to space us out and keeping middle seats empty, however this was a particularly full flight of people trying to get home to Perth, so it wasn't entirely possible in every sense.
Okay, so wow, made it on the plane. So I'll be in Perth in about 4 and a bit hours. Yeah, they didn't tell me until I got on the plane that they're not actually serving any food on this plane, just snacks. So definitely gonna have to make my sister do a Macca's run on the way home because I got booked onto this flight just over an hour before check-in closed and didn't have time to stop anywhere on my way. And then once I got to the airport, got through security, nothing was open for me to get any food. So yes, hopefully this snack will last me because I also haven't had breakfast yet. It's chaos on this morning. So definitely going to have to make Kiara do a Macca's run. But yeah, I'm going to head back to my seat. I'm going to load a movie and just relax and be in Perth soon.
So when I landed in Perth, there was not a soul in sight in the terminal, and right at the gate they had a quarantine checkpoint where you had to give all your details, confirm why you were there, and confirm that you were not sick. So after I landed, I did manage to convince my sister Kiara and her partner Dylan that a Macca's run was absolutely necessary as I hadn't yet eaten all day. I then got to their house where I would be staying and met my lovely new nephew. This is Romeo. He is 3 months old and he stole my heart. He bonded with me pretty quickly and then spent pretty much every night sleeping in bed with me, but I definitely wasn't mad. I then got stuck into my 14 days of compulsory quarantine, so I was doing jigsaw puzzles, I had bought a cross stitch, and I was also doing online uni. So I had online classes and assignments and coursework to keep me busy and distracted. And then because of all the rules regarding social distancing and sports and all that stuff, cheer also became an online activity. So we did online classes once a week to keep our fitness up, and on the very first week we started learning a dance. So this is the first 8 count of that dance that we learnt. And then in the second week we learnt a second 8 count, which we then uploaded to share with our teammates. So this is that second 8 count and me concentrating very hard on it apparently. So over the 4 weeks that I was there, we played countless games of Monopoly. In this particular game, Kiara's properties were all mortgaged, Dylan was bankrupt, all of the hotels and the houses on the board belonged to me, and the very next turn after I filmed that, I bankrupted Kiara, and she was not impressed. We also played quite a lot of Monopoly Deal. Romeo got very sick of all our Monopoly shenanigans. We did also play Uno. And then on my very last night I managed to convince them to play a couple of games of Cluedo with me. So of course while I was away my caring duties couldn't stop, and some of what I do with Sarah is we work on her tumbling skills for cheerleading. So just before I left she had just gotten her back handspring back, and through lots and lots of hard work from herself and some privates with her cheerleading coach, and some help from me, we started whipping out some beautiful back walkover back handsprings and T-jump back handsprings that she will use when she's finally allowed to go back to cheer, whether it be this year or next year. So this is just a small progression of how those turned out. They are obviously still a work in progress, but I'm pretty proud of her because she at no point had someone spotting her while learning these new skills. She was just talking to me and her coach through FaceTime calls. I did then send her a small package just with some toys and bits and pieces to add to her lucky dip box. Her lucky dip box is a box that she has where if has good behaviour or she works really hard on her tumbling or in cheer, she can be rewarded. So I sent her a few little goodies to add to that box. She did also send me an Easter present, and I sent her Easter present in this box. So then we had a FaceTime call so that I could open it and enjoy all my goodies with her. And then we did also have a FaceTime call when I was finally allowed to leave my house for the very first time after entering quarantine. Now, I wouldn't be a very good kitty auntie if I didn't have hours and hours of photos and footage of Mr. Romeo. So here are just some cute moments that Romeo and I got up to during my 4-week stay. This bunny here was actually part of my Easter present from Sarah. However, as soon as Romeo saw the bunny, he decided Bunny was his. And when I left Perth to come home to Melbourne, I had to leave Bunny behind. But honestly, I'm just happy that Romeo loves him and has a toy to play with, not that he was at all toy deprived. I did also have a quick trip to see my best friend and all her animals, socially distanced of course. And just like that, it was time to pack up and go home again. My sister surprised me with this lovely keychain the night before, and then kindly dropped me off at the airport the next morning. I was flying out of the terminal where all of the FIFO workers flew out of, and they had plenty of quarantine measures in place for everybody to follow to ensure they weren't spreading coronavirus anywhere. So I actually ended up in a row pretty much to myself except for this gentleman on the other window. And the entire plane itself had about 30 people on it, so the flight attendants actually gave us permission to completely spread out and sit wherever we wanted. We had a wonderfully smooth takeoff, and then we were served with some light snacks. Again, they weren't serving meals, but because of the lack of people on the plane, we were offered second round of snacks. The flight itself, there was a little bit of turbulence, but nothing major, and there were definitely some beautiful sights out the window, and I did get my favourite seat on the wing, which is where I love to sit. Landing itself was very smooth, and then we actually taxied straight to the gate instead of waiting due to the lack of flights landing in Melbourne. And then of course just the boring usual airport stuff, collecting my bag, getting an Uber, coming home to find my room obviously exactly where I left it with the inclusion of a package I had received, So when I got home, I did sit down and film a 13-minute conversation detailing my experience. However, I was a little bit of a tired mess, so VoiceOver K has come to the rescue and has already talked you through most of this conversation throughout this video. I do want to right now just clarify very briefly that I do understand we are in a pandemic, and I do understand that only essential travel is what should be happening. However, I consider going to see my family and checking that my family is okay essential. It was essential to my sanity and to my soul to know that my family was okay, that they were safe, and to be with my family in such a hard time. If this was not at all necessary, or if I deemed it more dangerous than it was, I would not have done it. I knew I was flying into a state with a lot less numbers of coronavirus than the state I was coming from, and I did also do my compulsory 14 days of quarantine when I got to WA as designated by the law at the time when I flew. Now Victoria don't have those same laws, so when I returned to Melbourne, I did not actually have to quarantine. I did have another week off work before I was put back on the roster, but I landed on a Tuesday and started back at work the following Tuesday. I did obviously do the right thing, and I social distanced within my house and out in the world. When I was at work, I was obviously wearing gloves and sanitizing and all that good stuff, which I was also doing at home. And I made sure I was safe and healthy, and if at any point I experienced symptoms, I would have said something and I would have seen a professional and been tested. Thankfully, I did not experience any symptoms over the course of this entire period, including up to now. It is now the end of May, and still have had no symptoms of the virus. So obviously, with what is going on in the world, I couldn't do too much socially, but I did get to sit and spend some valuable time with my sister and her partner and really just bond with them and get to be a family. I did also check in with my grandmother, but I shouldn't have been worried about her because she's perfectly fine and healthy and just getting ready to move into a brand new house she's building. So this was my experience traveling and having a birthday during coronavirus. I realise everyone else's experiences may be slightly different. I am just lucky that I was in a situation where I could get home to see my family. I don't know what I would have done had I not been able to do this. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the people that are doing the right thing and are social distancing and are using sanitizer and are staying home and working from home when they can. And I also wanted to give a big shout out to our frontline healthcare and essential workers who are still out there working and doing their best to keep us happy and healthy and safe and providing us with all of our needs, and who are in the front line potentially exposing themselves to the virus. So thank you very much to all of these people, and thank you guys very much for following my little journey here and watching this video, and hopefully I'll soon be getting into regular uploads. But again, thank you very much for watching this video. I will catch you all next time I upload. Peace out!